everyone. Today I'm embarking on a delightful interview with KS Harvin, an author and educator who shares a powerful story about how a health issue actually caused her to turn her full attention to writing. Come with me on our discussion as she explains how her pain led to her purpose and she transitioned from teacher to author.
So in 2019, I was diagnosed with Bell's palsy on the left side of my face. And while I was waiting to go back to what I knew, um, I began to put writing into as a part of healing. I began to fully focus on my writing and um like customizing shirts because my dad and my mom would be like, go somewhere and be quiet and just lay and rest. And I'm like, y'all, I'm gonna go crazy if I have to sit in this house and not be able to do something. But I started writing my first book like 15 years ago after I'm a melanoma survivor. And I had to have an operation. I had to have the melanoma taken out of my hand. And I when I was healing, because my mom wouldn't let me go past my bed, because she came up to help me recover, I read Between Lovers by Eric Jerome Dickey, and I was like, I can do this. Still had no idea as to how, but I was like, I can do this. And so I put pencil to paper and began to write my first book. And I would let people read snippets of it. And, they was like, this is really good. And it encouraged me to keep going. And then so in
Well,
2019,
let me ask you this then. Do you think people are born writers?
I think they can. Yeah, I think they are. I think some of it can be cultivated. And I think some of it can be, it's just naturally what you do. As part of your purpose, as part of, some people are born to act. Some people you can cultivate them to act, but it may take a little bit more. Some people are natural born leaders. It's just who they are. I think people are born with different skills and different skill sets, which makes us all unique.
So do you
But
think being a writer is part of your purpose?
I do.
Okay.
I do. It doesn't feel like it all the time sometimes. But for the most part, yes, I do.
Wonderful.
Um, I've had to write as family members have passed, and my grandmother didn't have the words. I had to write a poem for my aunts. I've had to write a couple of poems for a couple of aunts. And for my grandmother, I write songs. Like writing is my element. It's where I go to get away from it all. I get lost in it.
And it's
So
just a natural thing that you just kind of started exploring while you were young,
yes,
without anybody leading you that way.
no, no. But my mother writes poems,
Mhm.
and so did my grandmother on my father's side. But
No, go
it
ahead.
was nothing that was ever, you sit down and do this.
Right. You know what? We share that in common. I started writing poems out of seemingly the clear blue sky. It wasn't until I was an adult that people told me, um, well, your aunt used to write poetry. Your grandma used to write plays for church. Um, I'm like, really? And all this time, nobody ever told me all this stuff. And so I guess there could be, for lack of a better term, maybe there's a writing gene in the family. And it just came to me. And I mean, I remember writing poems so early on that my aunt and I remember, my aunt, who is actually a year and a half younger than me,
Hmm.
she remembers me making a deal with her because she was better at spelling. And I would say, I'll play dolls with you for an hour if you'll correct my poems for an
Oh,
hour.
wow. Uh-huh.
I didn't like playing dolls and all that. So I was playing Let's Make a Deal with her.
Right. I mean, hey, you got to get it in where you can get it in, however you can pay for it.
But that's
Almost.
funny to me.
Yeah. But
That's
yeah,
funny to
so
me at that young age that I even understood what a poem was. Like, why was I even writing? Like, I can't explain that. Nobody ever told me that I had to write, that I should write. I was just doing it.
and it wasn't even until now my mother could draw as well. We didn't get that gene. And and my grandfather could play 5 instruments by ear. We didn't get that gene either.
Now that sounds like my father. My father was very gifted. I didn't hear anybody say anything about creative writing, but he was good at, I'm told, every subject. He was high achieving in school. He died when he was 24 and I was only 9 months old, so I never knew him. But people that knew him, they really considered him a genius. They said he was good at every subject.
Mm-hmm.
And he would, when you said music, he taught himself how to play different instruments as well. But they said he excelled in math, he excelled in science, he excelled in everything. I just have never heard about the creative writing part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But he went to school to be an engineer, um, and he took this test that was given across the country. He was from Tanzania, and
Oh wow.
they gave a national test, and the top 5 performers they sent to America to study. And he was the youngest of the 5 that they sent here, but he was also the first. He was the first to finish his studies and the first to pass away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I don't know, this whole, I think it's a lot passed through genes. We don't understand it. Um, but I think you and I kind of understand it because we were writing
Mm-hmm.
for no apparent reason at a very young age.
Yeah, and so one of my daughters has picked that up.
Mm.
So my middle one has picked that up. She loves to write. We actually had started writing. She had a book. She had a paper to do for school, and we worked it together. And we're actually going to turn it eventually into a book
Mm-hmm.
one day. Um, but yeah, I have one that loves to write.
Oh, that's great. I have a niece that loves to write. My daughter has writing ability, and she actually did co-author a book with me and my mom. I think she's slow to come to the conclusion that, maybe I want to write a book. I obviously am not gonna try to force her in that direction, but
Right.
I see her own natural evolution, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the book that we co-authored was her idea. Um, she certainly has the knack for it. She's like gives the best advice to me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
reading my work, she gives tremendous feedback. So, yeah, I think something is there. I
Yeah.
think she's gifted as an actress too. She might be like, "Why did you say that in public?" But anyway, let's get back to you. You wrote a book called Running from Her Purpose.
Yes.
Tell us what inspired that book and even how did you come up with the title?
So, um, Casey is a character from the first book. Um, Casey and Don actually both are in Blue, which is my first book, volume 1 and 2. Casey is only known as the cute little bartender or the feisty little bartender,
Mm-hmm.
and Don is Mike's best friend and business partner, but he doesn't have a name until he gets to running to her purpose. And the name of the book at first was going to be Casey, but I was like, we have this one word. We're not going to do another one word. And as I got to writing it, and tracking her story, running from her purpose just felt right because that's what she was doing. She was running from the calling that she had on her life, and it took a face augmentation to send her back to the to put her back into place. And so I shed a little light on uh Bell's palsy and like kind of my journey through Casey. Um just to shine awareness on it because it is such a sporadic disease and a disease that took me from what I knew as a teacher. I taught first grade. I came out of first grade. And while I was waiting to go back, it altered my speech. I slurred. Um, my face drooped. I don't look like what I've been through. And with the pain doesn't is not as bad as it used to be, but there's still some pain there. And so just telling my story through her, or telling a piece of my story through her, again, just to shine a little light on the disease itself. Knowing that I've gone to four neurologists, and one told me I was absolutely crazy because I couldn't go back to a job. I had to fight not to go back to something that I was used to because my students couldn't understand me. So I'm in the classroom with slurred speech. My students are looking at me like I'm crazy. They're going home and literally telling their parents they're afraid of me because they hadn't experienced anything like that before. So it was a difficult decision, but I had to make the decision to put me first and come out and try to heal. Meanwhile, because I can't sit still, and because I have children looking at me, and because I'm not a quitter, I had to find a new normal. So my new normal was finishing the first book, and the first week that the book dropped, that Monday the Blue Volume 1 dropped. Friday we did a screenplay or a play production at my church for a 2-day, 3-night, a 2-night, 3-event play. So, no, I couldn't speak well, but darn it, I could write good. So
That's good.
so I had to put that, I had to get it out. And so I began to get it out with Blue Volume 1, and then I did it again with Blue Volume 2, turning myself into a publishing company and publishing my book through my name. Meanwhile, just trying to be a mom and a wife and a Nona, and still trying to do the things that I do at church, just trying to overcome this disease or this, and not let this, I had it, it didn't have me. And so one of the first shirts I made was, I have Bell's palsy, it doesn't have me, because it was something that I was not going to let it beat me.
Wow. That's great. Is there a favorite type of character you like to write?
Yeah. I would say I like all my characters, and you know this, once you get into it, they just start talking and living in your head. They come to life in your head. And so, like, as you're writing, you start chuckling because you can literally hear how they sound. But I think one kind of character that I love to write is, I love to shine and shed positive light on our Black men. They are not all dogs. There are some good ones out there. I know some. I'm married to one. So to shed and shine light on that, there are men who want to love us. And it's okay to submit to them once you're married and follow the institution of the covenant. So yeah, like I said on the panel, I love and I are married, been happily married for a while. And so I take pieces of my husband and I put them into the book, because he is my muse. I'm married to a phenomenal man. And I don't just say that because I do just say that because he's mine, but I do not take him lightly. And I want, even though it is fiction, I want people to see that yes, there are men out there, Black men, who are working hard and caring for their spouses and loving on them, and it's possible.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's wonderful. So you like to write strong African American male characters.
Yes, but not all of them, but yes, for every every one that is not, there are several that are,
Okay,
because you got to have a villain.
right. Now, you know what's so funny, and I don't know why it is. I need to explore myself a little bit more, but the novel that I wrote that is in two parts, my funnest character to write was actually the villain. I don't know if it's just because she's just such a hot mess. I don't know if I'm living vicariously through her in some way. But you know what it is, actually? I think it's because she's such a complex character.
Okay.
You don't know what you're gonna get from her. Like, she's gonna tug at your heart. You'll have empathy for her, but then you'll be so mad at her too. And you think, well, she's so evil, and the things she says and does, it's like, really?
So, and that is my villain in blue. In well, he's in all three books. Um, but he's in blue as a main character. He's sort of a main character in running from her purpose, but um, it's just like, why won't you get it together, bro?
Right, right. But
Like, what is wrong, son? But it explains to you in Blue Volume 1 why he's the way he is. And
right,
he's stuck, he's hurt. And
right.
so you read where he doesn't, instead of trying to heal, he's running from healing, and he's using all types of excuses as to why he's going to stay the way he is.
Mm, wow. Yeah. I think for my villain that I like that she's this mean person, but she's also so funny. It's like you want to hate her for what she just said, but it's so funny. And I think I like that about her.
Sometimes you just got to tell the truth, and it ain't always in love.
And I think it shocks me too that I thought of the things for her to say. I I think I like her because yeah, I'm living vicariously through her, but I am shocked and amazed at myself that those words came out of me for a character to say. It's
It's a
weird.
but it's a beautiful thing. It's such a beautiful thing. Like, I have been, I was talking to a pastor about one of my characters, and he was like, "We're gonna pray for her." I was like,
So let's go back to Casey. Casey is very interesting. She's both heroic and flawed.
yes.
Expound a little bit, like what larger ideas does she embody, and how are you using her character to get a message across to the audience?
Um, she embodies strength, um, overcoming. Like I said, I was diagnosed with Bell's palsy, and her story is my story, but her story is her own story. And so my message is that, again, we don't have to let our issues be our issues.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that it's okay to have a new normal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, get out. It's. I was forced out of what I knew,
Yeah.
and I had to learn to be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because the harder I fought to go back,
Mm-hmm.
the sicker it made me.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Okay. Wow. You know, just that right there, at least for me, is a powerful message.
Right.
I hope it resonates with a lot of people though. Sometimes what you're fighting to stay in is part of what's making you sick. And when I say sick, I know you mean literally physically sick, but sick could be so many things. It could be lack of peace, lack of, um, I don't know, just a feeling of security or confidence. It could be
And for,
literally making you
I'm sorry.
sick, frustrated, um, and all of those signs are telling you to let it go.
And for me, it was the job was literally killing me.
Mm,
I'm saying the one grade I taught, I had a doctor's appointment and went to the doctor. And my husband and I are sitting, and he was like, "You have." He gave me the name of it, and I was like, in layman's terms, he was like, "You have." He was like, "It comes from this, this, and this," and when he looked at me, he was like, "You have stress in your blood. How do I?" So I had to be on medication
wow.
for the stress in my blood.
Mm,
Um, Not only that, so they put me in a lower level, but it's
wow.
the going to work, and like when I first came out, I had an issue with my thyroid. My thyroid was out of whack. Um, I had a heart murmur.
Mm-hmm.
I had never had any other issues. My mom used to bring me to Greensboro or Winston-Salem for different to see different doctors
Mm-hmm.
for as long as I can remember. Never had an issue with it. When
Mm,
I came out and they were running all different kinds of tests, it had opened up again.
mm.
Um,
I gotta
the
tell
whole
you,
Bell's palsy itself started in at a staff meeting. My face literally went numb at a staff meeting, first day of school, my 20th year of teaching.
wow. Even what you're saying, stress in your blood. I don't know if it's just me, the way I'm wired and the way I process words, but it just keeps resonating. Like to me, that has multiple meanings. That has it's almost like a play on words for me. And I'm like, you can do so much with that. What does that mean? Stress in the blood. And we know that blood is our very life. Um, it's so interesting. Um, and you literally physically went through, we can glean from what you went through physically and apply it to our lives on a multifaceted level,
Mm-hmm.
physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, probably somehow financially.
Right. And that's what kept me there, the finances. I was making decent money as a teacher, decent with and that's with my husband and what he did and what I did. We'd learned to manage what we had. And but one year, I mean, I literally cried every morning to get up because
Mm,
I didn't want to go. And at the end of the year, my principal asked me, she said, "Why did you come?" I said, "Because it was a job that I was paid to do. I had to be there. It didn't matter what was going on around me. I had a job.
Right.
I had students that were looking for me to be there, even though they were part of the issue. I had I had I had to be there. You know what I mean? It wasn't I had to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to show up the best version of me that I could.
Hmm.
But before I did, I cried every morning.
Wow. So I am going to ask you a question I think I know the answer to, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Does your faith play a part in your writing?
Yes. Yes.
In what way?
Um I and it played with my right and on my psyche. Like I began to not necessarily hide behind it, but like I said, Casey's story became my story. And I wanted to shine light on the the situation as it were. Again, like the doctor telling me that I was crazy because she's literally listening to me with my speech slurred, and she's saying, "Well, you have to tell your job to find you something else to do." That's not how this works.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, like I said, I began to just document my journey through
Mm-hmm.
Casey, or part of my journey through Casey. Um, so yeah.
Mm. Wow. Okay. So you've been sharing about Casey. We've been sharing about ourselves as writers and authors, and um, based on what we shared so far, if an audience forgot most of what we said, what's the most important thing shared today that you'd say this one gem, don't forget this?
It's okay. Um, Life is scary. Purpose is scary, but it's okay. We have a, I'm, I believe in the Most High God. And people stop at Most High, but God.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and so I believe that, I serve a God who has not only brought me to it, he's bringing me through it. He's strengthened me.
Mhm.
Um, he has been somebody that I could lean on. And as I look back over these past 4 years or 5 years, because it's been five years, there has been a beautiful picture that has been written with these last five years, with these last 5 years of my life that would not have been written had I not had Bell's palsy. So I say, I made a Facebook post one time, all because I had it.
Mm.
Um, so I don't let it, it's not in, I forget I have it sometimes until I look in the mirror or try to take a picture. But I won't let this issue be my issue. It does not have me. I have it.
Right. Very good. Okay. That's a wonderful thing to leave as that very significant thought for the audience to hold on to. Now, um, is there anything you wanted to share about your book or even just your message in general, why you wanted to be on this podcast? Um, and I haven't asked you about it yet. Is there something burning inside that you would really want to share and we haven't touched on it yet?
No, I think we've covered a lot. Like I said, the Casey story is my story. and just even how her guy loves her through it. Um, I was blessed. I was fortunate, that I had a friend um, who she began to cry. We were having lunch and she began to cry. She was like, I don't know. I didn't want your husband to look at you differently. I was like, girl, my husband loved me even the more. You know what I'm saying? Like but I appreciate the fact that she empathized for me with
Yeah.
that. But the fact that my husband has not missed a beat on loving me.
Wow.
So kudos to my husband.
That's beautiful.
And just him being just him and my girls being and friends and family just being an amazing support group. Yes, just yeah.
That is so beautiful. And I'm happy that you're sharing that message because I do think that men, African American men, oftentimes get a bad rap, even because of what's seen in the media and so forth. And it's not often enough that we get to hear the positive. So I'm thankful to be able to share your message because part of your message is sharing such positivity for or toward African American men. And I think that's beautiful.
Thank you.
I know we both, you're welcome. I know we both write characters where uh, um, the the male, not that they had to be African American, because I've written African American, white, uh, different men who are
Mm-hmm.
a little, they're tripping. and
Uh-huh.
but like you, um, I am intentional to balance my books with those positive male role models as well, and particularly so for African American men, because I know it is true in society. It's not a pretty picture that's usually painted. I am delighted to hear um, about your real life story and experience with such a wonderful husband that
Yes, he
when
is. Thank
you're facing such challenges that would even disfigure you the way you would normally look, that he loved on you to that extent that you said even more. So that is beautiful. I love it. Um, so I will say now, please share any information that you would love to share to help the audience know how to get in touch with you, buy your book, anything you want to share along those lines. Please go ahead.
you. Okay. So I am on Facebook as Cat Standback Harvin, on Instagram as Cat Harvin. Um, email is keffney@hotmail.com. I'm revamping my webpage. So I've got to get that back up and running. Um, you can buy the book. You can email me and get an autographed copy from your girl. Um, or you can get it on Amazon and Barnes and Noble.
Wonderful. So it sounds like as long as they have Cat and Keffney and they Google it, those areas are going to pop up and they'll be able to find
Yes.
you.
Yes.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, I just want to thank you for being a guest on my show. It's been a great conversation between authors, and I appreciate how candid you have been and even sharing your personal story that is in some ways aligned with your main character. I like what you're putting out there in terms of putting out a positive message and even having people look at aspects of purpose and being able to get through it and remember your gym. It's okay. So thank
Note to self.
you. Thank you for sharing. And
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
absolutely. Thank you.